Okay, so I think we're all ready now. Right, so this is for Unit 3, Project Management. So what I'm going to, the reason I'm doing this is because whenever I do this lesson, I always end up having to repeat myself 5,000 times. So I think the best way to do it is to create a video that students can watch in their own time and skip forward and skip to the bits that they need to know or replay. So the first thing we've got to do is get the past paper, right? And I'm going to link that below. It's part A. Which I put in the folder if you are at the college that I'm teaching at. I put this in the folder lectures and then Unit 3 past papers, and then it's Northeastern Airport. So we need to look at the scenario part A, right? So open that PDF up, which is linked below. We also need a blank project initiation document, which we're not really going to fill in, but part A is about filling in this and creating the Gantt chart, the costings and the resources, and to do that you need to have this scenario and you need to use, well, I use Excel and I use Project. So the first thing you've got to do is spend about 30 minutes reading through this scenario. So you scroll all the way down, scroll past all this information about how to name files and things, and eventually you get to the scenario. And you can see that this scenario is about an airport in the Northeast, and they want to expand it. That your task as a project manager is to install hardware, software, and configure the new system. So, and that's summarized here. You then have to read through this information, and it's really important that you read it and you understand all of it. What you can do is, there should be a little highlight tool, I believe. Perhaps when you're looking at a PDF, there should be a tool in which you can highlight things like this. So, for example, the first thing that I'd want to highlight is read this information. Mr. Ward, the Director of Operations, has requested a system. I'm showing my screen. I'm just double checking that it's not just me on here. Yeah, so this is definitely recording me and it's recording this screen. So Mr. Ward's, the Director of Operations, has requested that a system will, well, these are the main aims of the system. Reduce record checking errors, reduce check-in times, allow passengers to check in, blah, blah, blah. These are also the other things he wants the system to do. Improve passenger efficiency by 30%. I'm going to unhighlight that. So these things. So they're the main names of the system. Then you read on a little bit. The system developed will be required. So these are the materials and things that you need to have, which you need to remember later on. The system will require a relational database, customized smartphone app, a network infrastructure, a customized database interface, blah, blah, blah. Key thing is so just one of these things, training for staff. One of these things is it needs 2 additional servers to provide redundancy for every system. So let's highlight these as well. So they're what the materials that you need. And that's really important because you have to decide how much the whole project is going to cost. And the fact that you need 2 additional servers means that you're going to have to cost in 3 servers. So then we come a really little bit further on, and in every part A scenario, there will always be an organizational structure. Your resources in the company, the people who work for you, who you can put onto those projects, onto different tasks, are the ones below you. So you're the project manager. It says you here. And these are your resources: senior software engineer, Mr. Carson, senior network engineer, 3 junior network engineers, 3 junior software engineers, and a database administrator. So they're the people who you can assign tasks. So then we read a little bit further on. It tells you how much each one of these resources costs, right? Each one is 32, like project manager, me, is £32 an hour. So that may be something that you want to cost into the project too. But the main ones you really want to focus on are senior software engineers and the other engineers, as I just said. Then below, you've got the materials, the things that you need to make the project work. So remember I said at the beginning, it said you need 2 additional servers. It says to do servers to provide redundancy for every system. So you're going to need 3 servers and 3 server software licensing costs. This is why it's really important to read the scenario. You've got to read it, you've got to understand it, and from that you've got to pick out all that information that you put into your costings. The check-in terminals as well, the network infrastructure, there you only need 1 of those, and that's how much of those costs. So let's highlight those. That's going to be an important piece of information. The next thing is it describes what each person in your team is going to do. So just flipping back to this project initiation document that I will go through in another video in more detail. There's already some like things that you could probably fill in. So the one that I've got here is a blank one, and you were given a blank one in the exam. So that there's a few things that you can fill at the beginning: the name of the project, the start date, completion cost. Document details are like who's the author. You're the author, the project manager. The date, put the date. No modifications. Approvals. Well, who's going to approve this project? It's going to be the people above you. The Director of Operations, Mr. Ward, Director of IT, Mrs. Evans. And who you're going to distribute that document to, it's going to be the same people. And also, you're going to want to distribute it to the client, and the client is probably so the Director of Operations, Mr. Ward, the Director of Operations at the airport. So he's the project sponsor. He's contacted MT Solutions to help with the project. So he's the sponsor of the project. He's contacted you, MT Solutions, and you've got to figure out how to do this. So so he is obviously going to be interested in approving this, and so you're going to need to distribute it to him. The project aims are things you could already pick out. They're these things, so you could literally just copy and paste these and put them into here like that. Let me just check. I should create a copy of this. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy it to my folder. So you want to create a folder that has this Part A scenario in, a blank Part A initiation document that you can fill in, because this is for your own reference. So these are the aims of the project here. And I can literally, and I've put some notes in here as well. So if you want to go through these, which you need to, you can see in this blank template things that you need to put in. So project aims are the list of key aims in the project, purpose of the project, outcomes, key data to include business cases. And these are all things that you can draw literally from the first few sentences in the scenario, and I've copied and pasted them in. So let's just sort that out into an order like that. Yeah, so we've copied those in. They're the project aims. Project management and control is something that you need to fill in as a project manager. Again, we'll come back to that when we fill in the PID in more detail, but this is about how you're going to make the project work really, really well. So what are you going to do as a project manager to make the project delivered on time, within budget, and at high quality? So they're always the 3 things you need to consider when you're managing a project: quality, cost, and time. Now, if you don't want to ever sacrifice quality, but you might be able to increase the budget a bit or go over time if you can justify it. But coming back to this, so in this scenario, we get down to these guys. So junior network engineers, what are they able to work on? Well, this makes more sense if we scroll further down into the scenario. So every paper will have this similar sorts of information in. It will have a list of all the resources and what they're able to do. It also has something where it highlights how long they're going to take to do certain things. So for a junior network engineer, it will take 9 hours per general function point. And this makes more sense when you come down to the list of tasks. So the director of IT has provided these details from her function point analysis. So they've done the hard work for you. If you're a real project manager in the real world, you would literally not be able to do anything until you'd worked out how long each task was going to take. But they've given you all the information here. This is the list of tasks, and it's in an order, a certain order as well. So you can copy this in a minute, and we're going to copy it into a piece of software called Project, MS Project. We can copy it in this order, and it's got next to it these function points. So this task, develop a smartphone app, will take 11 general function points. So when you're looking through the list of resources up here, you find that you need to find someone who's able, for example, to develop a smartphone app. So we go back up to here. Junior network engineers cannot do that. But junior software engineers can. They can develop a smartphone app. A senior software engineer can do different things. Sometimes they can do the same thing, but sometimes they have unique abilities. So a senior software engineer is able to integrate the smartphone app and a relational database, and is able to develop the relational database. Whereas the junior software engineers are not able to do that thing, but they can make the smartphone app. To be honest, the senior engineer could probably do that, but they probably consider that a bit below them. Basically, just take whatever they give you at face value in the scenario. Don't try and invent things or imagine other scenarios. Just take the information that they put in there. So we need to develop a smartphone app, right? And the junior software engineer will be able to do that. They're going to take 11 general function points. And then also below that, it gives you information about how long each function point is going to take for those junior software engineers. It's going to take 9 hours per general function point. So it's really important to find this information, because when we're costing it up and figuring out how long each task is going to take later on, we need to know this information to put it into our equations. So, and then again, we're almost at the end of this scenario. We've read through everything else. It's estimated that the staff would work 5 days a week and work 7.5 hours a day. Now, it's really important that you've read this, because sometimes they say a working day is 7 hours, and sometimes they say it's 7.5 hours. They can change it every year. And if you haven't read it, which shows you haven't read the scenario, and you might lose marks over that. They also give a start and an end date for the project. This is important, which you'll see when we start using project. Also, they tell you about for each test activity. So when we look through this list of tasks here, I can see 3 test activities: server software testing, hardware testing, and software and security testing. So they're saying, I believe, and sometimes there's a bit of ambiguity in these papers, although the later papers like 2022, 2023 have got a bit better at not being so ambiguous. But basically what they're saying is for each test activity, there's going to be 2 major faults found and 3 minor faults. So, and it takes 2 days to rectify a major, 1 day to rectify a minor. Each fault would need a further 3 days of regression testing. So for each one of those testing activities, you're going to need to factor in an extra bit of time there. Then they've got a budget. You've got 150,000. They've also got another extra bit of information at the end that the airport will hope to increase the number of flights from 10,000 to 94,500, and efficiency and profitability will increase year on year. So, like switching back to this list of project aims, that's something you could include as well. So I could copy this. In the first year, the number of flights would and increase year on year. So again, I can copy that into there and add in another project aim, and that would get me some more marks as well. So you've got to go through the scenario and pick out all the things that are really important and all the things that well, everything really is important. They aren't going to throw you any red herrings or any misinformation. And as you do read the scenario, there are certain things that you can fill in on this PID, but again, we'll come back to that in another video. So I've read this scenario now. I'm pretty sure I kind of understand what they've got to do. So now let's get down to actually using project and Power and Excel. So I go here and I can't see this because it's on the other screen. I open up project. And I'm going to choose a blank project like this. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and copy and paste in these tasks or activities. So you need to make sure that you've downloaded this PDF and have it on your own computer so you can copy and paste things. If you're looking at it from a shared link, you won't be able to copy it. So download it. And it's always something I'm telling people. So you come back to project. If I can make this any bigger so you can see it. Don't think I can. I hope you can see it. So now I paste all these tasks into there. Now you could sort this out a little bit and remove that bullet point and use capitals. That would be a good idea. Right. So now we've got develop the smartphone app, create a customized interface, all those tasks there. We now need to allocate people to them. So to allocate people to them, we're going to need to add some resources. The best way you can do this is if you you click on this button here where it says Gantt chart, the drop down menu, and you go to resource sheet. And now I'm going to enter in each of my resources. So again, I have to keep switching back and forth to this project scenario. So I'm going to put them side by side like this. And I'm going to scroll all the way up to this organizational chart. And I'm going to enter in from here to here, all the way down, all the different people. So we've got senior software engineer, senior network engineer. Then we've got junior network engineer. And because we've got 3 of these, I'm going to call them junior network engineer 1. And because I want to save myself some time, I'm going to copy that. And then junior network engineer 2. Junior network engineer 3. Then we've got junior software engineer. You could use abbreviations for these if you like JSE or JNE. It's up to you. And the junior software engineer needs to be junior software engineer 2. And then we've got junior software engineer 3. Then we've got database admin. And that's it. We've got 9 different resources that I've entered in from this organizational chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 resources. Right, so we've got the resources in. Now we switch back to the Gantt chart. So I click on that drop down list again and I click on Gantt chart. And again, I'm going to shrink that so I can see it. I've got to then go to this list of people about who can do what. Now, this doesn't have to be accurate, but you just need to get an idea of who could do what, and then we're going to copy it over into a spreadsheet, and then we're going to do the function point analysis, and then we're going to put the like that will allow us to work out how long each task is going to take in, say, number of days and hours, and then we're going to enter it into here. I'm going to add one more task at the. I'm going to add a start date because we know this. 03/02/20 starts on the 3rd of February, as it says in the scenario right here, and it's going to end on the 3rd of April 20. So one thing you can do is if you insert a task above it and you name it airport project, and then we put that date in there, and we can also put a start date in, end date in there as well. So 03/04/20. So it will tell us how long we've got for this project, 45 days. Because we're in 2023, we're going to have to like scroll this timeline all the way back to 2020 when the project actually is. So you should be able to see in your project like a little timeline above it, and then there's like a green box, and if you stretch that way, it makes it like zooms it out, and if you make it smaller, it zooms it in. And then, but if I put the cursor there, I can actually just drag all the way over. And then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so I can see everything. What's happened to my screen? Sorry, lost it there. Right, so I should be able to see that entire length of that project there. That's the first task. So everything should fit within that block. If I've got tasks that are going to go over there, this is my Gantt chart, by the way. As you'll see, we'll build it up and it shows when tasks start and finish and who's doing them. Then I've got a problem if it goes over that time. Yeah, so who can develop the smartphone app? 11 general function points. We need to go back up to here. Junior software engineer. So let's put junior software engineer 1 on there. Who can create a customized interface? Create and customized interface. Okay, let's put junior software engineer 2. Who can develop the relational database? So again, the junior ones can't, but the senior software engineer can develop the relational database. So we need to select senior software engineer for that task. So I select him like that. Then we've got integrate smartphone app and relational database. Who can integrate the smartphone app and the relational database? Again, the senior software engineer is able to integrate the smartphone app and the relational database. So we'll put him on that as well. He's going to be a bit overworked, isn't he? But then you're a senior, so he's getting paid £7 more than juniors, which isn't that realistic. Install check-in desks. Who can do that? That sounds like a networking job, doesn't it? So we look through and we find junior network engineers can install check-in desks. Let's put the junior on that one because they're a bit cheaper. And one of the things that you need to justify in your PID, I keep referring back to this, is why you've made certain decisions. This is what the PID is about. It's about you giving the chance to write a description of why you're doing it. So that's something that could go in project management and control. And I'm not going to go through the PID in detail in this video, but I keep referring back to this because these are the things you need to hold in your memory and think about that you're going to write about in here. So we've got junior network engineer 1, install checking desks, right? And who can then build and connect each server. So building easy way to figure out who can do what is whether they've got complex or general. And this is a complex function point, so it's generally going to be a senior. So that means we can search through this part A document a bit quicker. As I can just scroll down to probably the senior network. Where's senior network? Here he is. He can build and connect servers. So let's put the senior network engineer on here. Who can install and configure software for each server? That's a complex function point again. And I think that would be a senior, install and configuring. So we're going to put the senior on there. And then we've got some these testing activities: server software testing, hardware testing, software and security testing. So hardware testing sounds like a network engineering job. Let's put a junior onto it. It's going to be cheaper. This could also be a negative point when you come to justifying why you're doing it. If you put a junior on, they may not do as good work, right? So hardware testing for each server. So I'm going to put junior software engineer, junior network engineer. 1 on there. I just noticed a slight mistake I made. Create a customized interface. Create a customized interface is a junior software engineer task, and I put junior network engineer on. So I'm going to change that and put junior software engineer 2 on that. Yeah, but the network engineer is probably going to be the ones who can do the hardware. So we'll put junior network engineer 1 on that. Or let's put 2 because we've got junior network engineer doing that one. So it's also about how you balance out the tasks as well. If like one of the things you have to produce is a report on the resources, and if you're overworking someone, then that's not good, is it? In the real world, they wouldn't want to do that. So server and software testing for each server. Server software testing. Server software testing can be done by junior. Let's put junior software engineer 3 on there. We haven't used him yet. Then we've got software and security testing. So again, we're going to need another junior on there, probably. So software and security testing. We could put a junior network engineer on there because it says hardware testing or security. Software testing. So let's put junior software engineer 2 on there because he should have finished that task before. So junior network engineer. So we've got junior network engineer 1, and then we'll put junior network engineer 2 on there. Plan and deliver training for staff. So who can do that? It's a general function point. The senior software engineers can do that. You can also put juniors on as well. We've used our senior software engineer quite a lot. We haven't used our senior network engineer much, although maybe we want to use a junior software engineer on that one. You see, it's up to you. Like, it's just getting an idea of like who's going to do what. Let's say that we can put junior software engineer 1 on that because he can plan and deliver training for staff. He's going to be cheaper too. So now we've got sort of a general idea. One thing you can do if you wanted to put 2 resources on the same task, I could do that. So if there's a particularly long task here and we're running over time, then we could put 2 resources on it. That means that the time to take it would be cut in half, but that means the cost to do it would be doubled. Although it would be over a shorter space of time, because you've got 2 people working on it. But if you can just put 1 person onto it and it all works out quite nicely like this, then do that, because it makes your life a bit easier. Right, so this is our Gantt chart. We haven't got any dates in it yet. I'm going to copy this, and I can put this away for now. I'll expand this window. I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to create a Excel doc, and I'm going to paste all that information I just copied in. So I'll expand that row so I can see it. Here it is. I don't need these columns in my spreadsheet, so I'm going to delete them. Right. So what I need to see is I've got develop the task and then who's going to do it. I will need to look at the scenario because I need to know how many function points each resource is going to take. So again, we need to refer to this section where they're listing what the different resources can do. And then I'm going to create a couple of new columns. So one is going to be called function points for task. The next one is going to be called function point hours, because we need to know how many hours per function point per hour. The next one is going to be hours. The next column, because we need that, from that we can multiply, we can, from the number of function points and number of function points per the number of the hours per function point, let's call that a better name. We could just shorten this a bit and use FP, right? So hours per function point, hours. We also want to know how many days. We're going to do a calculation for days. Also, we want to then do cost per hour, PH, and then also we want to do total cost. So the first one is a junior software engineer. The task is 11 general function points. The hours per function point. So we look up junior software engineer, and it says here 9 hours per general function point. So we put a 9 in there. Then we're going to multiply with a little trick in Excel. That's really, really smart. You can make it into a calculator. So you write equals there, and then you write the name of this cell, which is C2. You can see by if you follow the column and the row, C2 times D2, and then I press return, and then it calculates the total number of hours, right? Okay, the days is going to be, well, remember what it said here. It said 7.5 hours per day. So we need to divide hours by days. So we're going to divide E2 divided by 7.5. The cost per hour. Again, we need to look back at the scenario, and we need to look at how much a junior software engineer is costing. It's £20. And then the total is going to be cost per hour times hours. So we write equals, and then I'm going to zoom this in to make this a bit bigger if you can't see it, or if you can see it. Then we're going to write equals. So we're going to multiply E2, multiply that by G2, right? So now, a really clever trick of Excel, if you didn't realize it or know it, is I can copy those formulas down. So I select the cell that I want to copy down, and I go to the corner, and the cursor turns into a crosshair, and I drag that down. And now, although there isn't any information, it's all 0, like that formula is copied to every row, and it changes the row number, if you could see. So like C9 times D9, C10 times D10, and so on. And I'm going to do the same for total as well. And I'm going to do the same for days. And then all I've got to do is enter the function points. So this next story is create customized interface, 8 function points. Who's going to do it? Junior, and they take 9. So then it's calculated that. That again, they're 20. And we've got total cost there. Then we've got develop the relational database. 10 complex function points. So, and that's done by a senior software engineer. He's £27 an hour. And then we write 10 hours per function point. Again, we have to scroll down into the scenario. So senior software engineer, 9, it needs 7 hours per general function point. And I think it says 9 hours per complex. If you can see, yeah, 9 hours per complex. So 9. And then so on and so on. So we've got a senior software engineer again. 4 complex function points. So we put 4 in there, 9 in there, and then 27. Junior network engineer. How much is it? A junior network engineer. Again, it's 9 hours per general function point. Junior network engineer is 20. This task, install check-in desks, takes 20 general function points, quite a lot. So it's going to take quite a lot of time. 180 hours for that, or 24 days, and it'll be 20. So when you've got really long tasks like this, like if you haven't got anyone else working on that, so you've got resources who are free, it's possible you could put several junior network engineers onto it. So let's just see how this works out though, doing it with just one. But it would increase the cost. So if you've got 2 on it, it's going to double it, but it would halve the amount of time. So instead of taking 180 hours, it would take 90 hours or 12 days. So if your project is going over deadlines, it's going over the end of the project, maybe you need to consider doing that and making sure you use all your resources. So the next one, build and connect a server, 3 complex function points. Who's going to build it? A senior network engineer, and he needs 7 hours per general, 9 per complex, so 9. And then he is, double check that, senior network is also 27. It's a bit cheap for a senior, to be honest, as I said. Then we've got, but that's what it says in the scenario, so don't go making anything up. Just take what information they give you. Then we've got install and configure a software server. So we're going to install and configure a software server. So that is 12 complex function points. We've got a senior software engineer. They will take 9. It says 9 hours for a complex function point, and then 27. And then we've got server software testing. So we've got juniors on these. So we know juniors are going to take 20. So for the next 3 activities, I could put 20. 10 general function points. So 10, 10, and 26. So 10, 10, 26. And they all take 9 hours per function point. So we can put 9 in there. And then we've got the last one, plan and deliver training. Also, this is a junior, they're 20 an hour. All the juniors are 20, only the database admin, who we're not using, which is interesting. So maybe we should. And what can the database administrator do? Server software testing for each server. Okay. So we've put software and security testing. We should put the database admin here instead of the junior network engineer, I believe. So sometimes when you're working through these scenarios, you notice a little mistake that you've made like that. That's okay. Just come back in and fix it. So software and security testing, instead of him, I'm going to put the database admin. And then I go and update my spreadsheet database admin. And he is £22 per hour. A little bit more expensive, but £22. A database admin, 6 hours per general function point. So 6 hours per general function point, and there's 26 of those. So this is quite an expensive task, really. It's quite a long one. Maybe there's a way of cutting that cost down. Perhaps I could have sorted it out and made the different, made a cheaper person work on it. And the last one, junior software engineer, is 2 general function points. So junior software engineer 2, and it's 9 hours. Right, and there we go. Now we have done our function point analysis. So I've copied all the tasks and the people who I've said are going to do them over onto my spreadsheet. I've created these columns. The first one is the function points for the task. So function points, let's call that FP, function points per task. The hours per function point. So for that resource, how many hours will they take? How many hours in total it's going to take to do it? How many days? Cost per hour, and then the cost. And we've used Excel formulas. Now, if we wanted to get a total of this cost, we can do equals and we write sum. And Excel is really clever, and it will guess that we're trying to sum up that column. So it will suggest H2 to H12. I press return, and it sums it up, and it's going to cost me £21,459 or dollars or whatever currency we're in, pounds. So that's the first part of costing it. And the next part of costing it is this bit. Actually, no, it's not. It's figuring out what materials we need. So I'm going to copy those materials. I can copy that. No, I have to copy all of them. I'm going to copy them. Now, if I scroll down to the bottom, it's going to I'll remind you of how many things we needed. So actually, it's not at the bottom, it's at the top. And it says here, what do we need? What does the system require? So one of these things, but 2 additional servers, so 3 in total, right? So we're going to have to cost that in. So I'm going to paste that in there like that. So cost. So I'm just going to do simple formulas in these cells. So here, 2,900 per server times 3. That gives us that cost. 3,911 times 3. That gives us that cost. We only need 1 check-in terminal, it's 53,000, and we only need 1 network infrastructure, 25,000. And then again, I'm going to sum that. So that's the sum for all our materials. Yeah. This is something you can talk about. Again, flipping back to this PID. In this bit, project management and control, you can say that you got the fact that you had 3 servers, you did that because you wanted to have backup if one of the servers failed. So you want to show that you've put thought into that, and that you are competent and resourceful project manager, and that's the kind of thing you've got to write about in this PID. So just kind of keep all those things in your head. But you see, we could now start actually fill in this bit of the PID. We've done the materials. I can literally just copy that cell. Maybe if I put a pound sign in front of it, but I could just copy that in there. Straight into our document. But you should like put some, yeah, I can just put pound sign in there like that. So that is how much our materials are. Maybe you want to say more explicitly, I'm going to put that over here, cost, quantity. Maybe we should say more explicitly how many we need of each. 3, 3, 1, and 1, right? Now you could do a calculation here, but it's good to have more information that you want to show in your PID. So now that looks a bit better. Got server 2009 per server. We've got 3, so it's going to cost this much, and the total is going to be that. So that's already something you can fill in. So sometimes as you're going through this costings and project, you can also fill in the PID as well. But again, this is another video. Come back to it. Right. So we've done the materials. The last thing that we need to cost is this thing at the end. Now, this is a little bit complicated and it threw me at first. And I used to think I had to calculate this separately, but it says here, each test activity. So we've got to include this in this plan here. Each test activity, there'll be 2 major faults, 3 minor. Okay, so how many days is this going to take? Well, you might already have figured it out in your heads, but we could use a calculator. We could use a cell in Excel. So, right. So there are two major faults, and a major fault takes 2 days to rectify. So 2 times 2, and I'm going to use some brackets here. 2 times 2, plus 3 days of regression testing for each fault. So we're going to have to do 3 times 2 because we've got 2 major faults. Plus, let's do the minor faults. 3 minor faults. So we've got 3 minor faults. It takes 2 days to rectify a major fault, 1 day to rectify a minor fault. So 3 times 1, which is 3. And then we need to add on the regression testing. So we need to do, there's 3 minor faults times 3 days. And then if I press return, it's 22 extra days. So, so this is like, let's call this contingency testing time. In days, and in hours, because we're going to need to update our hours above in a second. So remember we said each day is 7.5 hours, so 22 times 7.5. So for each of those 3 tasks, we're going to need to add on 165. So I have to go back up to here. I find those 3 tasks, this one and these 3 here. And then I'm going to like add on 160. Is that right? So 90 plus 160 is 250. 156 plus 165. My mistake, 165 So now you can see for each of those 3 tasks, server, software, hardware testing, and software and security testing, that it says in this scenario, there will be 2 major faults and 3 minor faults, right? And we've now added in this extra bit of time to take account of finding the faults, fixing them, and then regression testing them. So it adds on quite a bit of time, gone from 90 hours up to 255 or 34 days, and this one's 42 days. Well, we've done it now. We've costed everything up. This is going to be the total cost for our resources. This is going to be the total cost for our resources, the people doing the tasks. This is going to be the total cost for materials. So let's get a total here and put it in here. Let's do equals, and I can do a sum. Then if I press Ctrl and I click on the cell that I want to add together, I'm going to add this cell, the cost of the materials, to this cell, the cost of the resources. And I sum this one and this one. And then you can see that it's going to cost me 130,122 apparently. This may change, because what we're going to do now is put all this information back into our project and see whether or not we have managed to do all of these tasks, not just within budget, because remember it said in the scenario we've got 150,000, but have we done it within time? So let's switch back to project. I'm going to put project over here now on this side, and my spreadsheet over here, and I can either copy in the hours or I could copy in the days. Let's copy in the hours. And I can just, because all of these tasks are in the same order, because I copied them from project into Excel, because they're in the same order, I can just paste them all in like that. And it's done it in days. So we don't want it in days, do we? So let's copy the days instead. And so we've got like things like 13.2 days. One thing you could do, if you wanted to be on the conservative side, is to round that up. So 14 days, although 13.2 is rounded up, is not 14, but let's make it that 14. 10 days, 12 days, 5 days, 24 days. This 3.6 would go to 4. 14.4, let's make that 15. 42.8 will go to 43. 2.4, let's put that up to 3. So I've overestimated as well. That's also something you could talk about. You could say I was very conservative, and when it was slightly over 13.2 days, I actually made it 14 days. This might mess up our time schedule as well, but this is what we're about to find out. So that was quite a bit of work. Obviously, go back and go through all the, I'm going to put some timestamps in, and you can see where each bit is and what you need to do to how to do this. And I'll put as many resources in the link below as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sort out the dates. So the first thing, the develop smartphone app can start when the project starts. So can the second one. So I copy the date from this cell to this cell. And then because we've put the number of days in there, it calculates the end date easily. So you don't have to do any work. You don't have to think about it in your head. And it also skips out weekends. Like if you look at this, it started on the 3rd of February. The task was 10 days, so it counts 10 working days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that. Develop the relational database. Now we're also going to start that from the start of the project. The next one, because we've got a senior software engineer here, so this is about how to use the predecessor column. This senior software engineer is on this task, so he's also on this task, but he cannot start this task until he's finished this one. So in the predecessor column, we need to put the row number of the last task he was on, which is 4. So I put 4 in like that. And then we've got him, and he will start this task after he's finished the other one. Now, this avoids clashes, so we don't want to have staff members working on a task when they haven't finished the other. See what happens if I deleted that and I put Monday the 3rd of February in there. You get these 2 red men here, and that means that a resource is over allocated, and we can't have that. You will lose marks for that if you haven't sorted that out. So I'll undo that. Junior network engineer, we can put that at the start of the project as well. It takes 24 days. Senior network engineer, we can put him at the start of the project. Senior software engineer, now we have used him before, so we have to wait for him to finish integrating the smartphone app before he can start the other one. So, right, I'm going to put predecessor column back in there. So we have to put the last task, the number of the row that he was the last task to, which is 5. And that will make sure that he doesn't start that task until he's finished that one. And now we've got the testing. So we've got junior software engineer 3. We haven't used them before. I suppose you could put the start of the project in here, but then it also doesn't make a lot of sense, really. So they can only, the junior software engineer can only really start testing the server software once everything has been installed and configured. So really, this testing task shouldn't start until this one is finished. So let's put predecessor column 8 in there. But then if we look over here on our Gantt chart, we can see that the project is overrunning. So we need to fix that. How can we fix that? I hear you ask. Unless you've fallen asleep by now. This is quite long. I'm going quite fast, but you know, you can jump to bits in this and rewatch it. And all the information is there on how to do it. Let's leave that like it is for now and just finish this off. So hardware testing for each server. So build and connect each. So which one would the hardware testing? When could hardware testing for each server start? I think that build and connect each server. Once each server is built, we could start testing it. So we should put 7 in there. And that's staying within our time scale. It's just this one that we need to sort out. The next one, software security testing, software and security testing. So where should this come after? I'm going to cheat a little bit because I think this is all going to overrun. I'm going to put the start of the project. The database admin is basically going to do this throughout the project. It's 43 days to do software and security testing. Now, you might want to put several resources onto this because it's a 43-day task, and having one person do it for the whole 43 days is probably not sensible, and it probably doesn't make any sense. If you can split these tasks, if you could split that up between several people, that would make the most sense. But let's just try and make this work the simplest we can for now. Then, and the last thing is plan and deliver training for staff. So when can training be delivered? I would say that training can be delivered probably after the last task, installing configuring software. So 8. Let's put 8 in the predecessor column. So once that one is finished, then we can start delivering that we can start plan and deliver training for staff. So we've got this problem here. And this is where the Gantt chart comes in handy, because we can't overrun that much. So what we could do is we could cheat and say that the junior software engineer 3 is going to start the task from the beginning of the project because he's not doing anything else. Yeah, and now everything, as if by magic, fits into our timescale. Maybe you want to comment below about how best you could have fixed that. So let me know your thoughts. What could I do to reshuffle this around? I'll post the link to this project file as well, and you could download it and maybe change it, and maybe you could email me it. What would be your solution to fix this problem? But we have managed to deliver everything within budget and within time. Great. The next thing we need to do is, or the last thing we need to do really, is to then transfer over these costs. So these are the costs. These are the materials. We're going to need to switch views now. So over here, you've got this drop down where you've got your resource sheet, blah, 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 blah. If you click on the view menu at the top and you go to tables and switch to cost, I'm going to paste in all the materials that I need. Is that right? Yes. It's a bit messed up. I'm not sure what's going on. Right, there we go. So I pasted in materials. Then we switch back to the spreadsheet, and I'm going to copy in the costs now as well. So I'm going to get each individual cost because it's in order, and as we copied and pasted it, I can just literally paste this straight into project. And I'm going to copy in the total cost column. I'm going to remove that task maybe. I'm going to paste in here. And then we've got all the costs for each individual task. And then we're going to do the same for the materials as well. So I'm going to copy in those 4 costs for the materials. And I'm going to go to the cost column. I'm going to paste it in there. So now we've entered our costs in. We've done our Gantt chart and we've set up the resources. I can switch back to that Gantt chart view or the entry view by clicking here, or I can go back to the cost view by clicking here again. And I can switch between there's like tracking Gantt chart and Gantt chart. Not sure what the difference is between tracking Gantt chart and Gantt chart. Again, I'm not a total expert on this. If you have an idea of the difference between them, maybe you could comment below, let me know, find out, go and do some research and let me know. So the last thing we've got to do. So we've done this spreadsheet. We've calculated all the costs for the materials, for the resources. We've put in all the dates. We've made sure nobody's over allocated. And we've put in the cost for each one of those tasks. But the last thing we've got to do is, if you look at the scenario, is we need to produce, go right back up to the top. We need to produce 4 documents. As I said, PID is something we'll come back to. We need to produce an activity 2 Gantt chart, activity 2 resource, activity 2 cost. So we have to produce 3 reports. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to here and I'm going to save this, or I'm going to make sure it's saved, because sometimes when you do this exporting, the program crashes and it can get corrupted and you could lose all your work. So make sure you save it. I'm going to save as. I'm going to put it on my computer here as well. So it's actually saved onto my computer. Airport video example. So I'm going to put everything in here for that. I've saved it there. I'm not going to lose it. I might even, if you're on the cautious side, you might even want to copy that. So like, you know, what you don't want to do in the exam is spend like half an hour, 45 minutes making this brilliant Gantt chart and it gets corrupted and you lose it. Like you won't be able to recover that, and you know, if you can't hand these reports in, you're not going to get the marks. So where did I save that? Here. Airport video example. There we go. There it is. It's saved. I'm going to copy that. Project 1 copy. Maybe give it a better name than Project 1. Call it Airport 1. Then this thing, this spreadsheet, I'm going to make sure that I save that. I'm going to download it. Save it like that. I'm going to save it as airport costs. Again, I'm going to put it in my folder. So always make sure you save and keep copies of the work you're doing. If you don't, then there's a chance you could lose everything and you could lose all your work, which would be a disaster. Right, so we've got everything saved here in this folder. This is the final bit that you need to do. So the first thing we needed, I said, was activity 2 Gantt chart. So I'm going to copy that format for what we're going to save this as, and I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to print, and I'm going to check in the print view how it looks, right? So the key thing we've got to show to the exam boards is like all the different individual tasks, who we're assigning to them, and the dates. And then over here we've got to show the Gantt chart. If I go to, I press this button to the right here, have we got one down as well? Yes, we have. We've got more tasks below. So we're going to need to change the format of this. And I think if you change it to a bigger paper size, there we go. If we change it to 11 by 17, and we're not printing this out, we're going to export it as a PDF. We basically want to, or what does that one look like? You know, have a play around with these, but really 11 by 17, we get to fit everything into one page. So we haven't got to go down, and then we go to the next screen and there's nothing else there. So we've got it in the right format. You can see, the examiners can see the Gantt chart and how each story leads on to the other and what activity it's related to. And now we're going to export that. I'm going to create a PDF. I'm going to go and put it in my folder, and I'm going to call it I'm going to paste in the name format that they want. And you just have to replace some things here in the name. So the thing in the brackets for registration number will be your exam registration number, which I don't have, and you will know at the time of doing it. Then you've got surname. So my surname is Smith. And then you've got first letter of name. So B. Then I press OK and OK again, and let it just think about that. Export that. Sometimes, like I said, you need to make sure you've got a copy of this project, because at the moment it says project 1 not responding. Sometimes the program crashes and you could lose all your work. So it's still thinking about it. It might take a while to do this, but just give it a chance. Just wait. Also in the exam, you can do all this exporting at the end. It's not included in the exam time. all you've got to do in the exam time is the questions, but the actual exporting, once we say you need to stop, you could possibly do that at the end. It would be better to finish it before, but if you need a bit of extra time just to export it, then that's a possibility too. And you see it's totally locked. So I wonder whether this is going to work. Might have something to do with the size. Oh, it's doing something. Yes, it's done it. There we go. We've got this exported PDF, activity to Ganntt, your exam number, your surname and your first name. Let's just open it up just to check what it looks like. So if you're happy with that and what is exported, don't worry that it goes to multiple pages. If you're happy with how it looks, then that's what you have to hand in. And they've just got to see how you've done it and how you planned it out and stuff. Okay, that's that one. The next one you need to export is activity 2 resources. I copy that. I go back to here and now go to this tab at the top on the menu called report. And I want to do resource overview. So I click on report, resources, resource overview. And that will tell me how much I'm using each resource or not. So you can see here, I've not used the junior network engineer. So over allocated resources, we don't have any. Resource overview shows how much we've used each resource. Resource cost overview. Because we haven't put how much they cost per hour in, it doesn't matter. But we don't need to report. We don't need to show that anyway. Just show resource overview. So how many hours we've put on each resource on each task, right? You can see that I've really overworked my senior software engineer and my junior network engineer. So this is where you might want to come back into your Gantt chart and do a slightly better job at it, like juggle it around a little bit and play it so you've spread everybody out, or even better, try and put 2 resources on the same task so you can split the task up. Because if you did manage a project like this and you overwork people, people would quit. And that is something that you've got to talk about in your PID, how you managed it. But for the purposes of this short, it's not that short, it's over an hour video, this is how you could do it. So, and that all you've got to do now is export that as a PDF. So I go File, Export PDF, Create PDF, and I paste the name in, I put it in the file that I want to save it in. And then again, I replace my registration number with the registration number, surname Smith _B. Export that. So that's my resource overview. Activity 2 resource. And then we've got the last one, activity 2 cost. So again, we go to report, costs, task cost overview. And this will list how much each task and the materials is going to cost. And it shows a breakdown of it here. It's a bit skewed because it's included the materials, and the materials are very much the biggest cost, especially that you can't really see how much the other things cost. This is a breakdown of on schedule and late. So I think it thinks that these things it thinks our resources are late because we haven't put a date on them. So to fix that, I could go back to here and put a date on it. let's assume that we get them at the beginning of the project. So I basically put the start date in the start and finish. So then if I go back to this report, I look at cost, task cost overview. Now it says how much, well, it's giving us the total anyway. That's the main thing. That's how much our project is going to cost, 130,000. And that's a breakdown of all the other costs for each task. So again, I copy that to the clipboard again. I'm going to export this, create PDF, put it in my file folder that I've created, and then replace the registration number with the registration number, the surname with my surname, like that. And now you can see in this folder that I've created on my hard drive, and I recommend you do this when you're doing the exam, keep multiple copies in multiple places. You'll have a USB key that you need to put these resources into, make sure you've exported them, and then go through and check them. So this is my resource sheet. So there's a problem here. Oh no, there isn't a problem at all because that's my resources. This is my Gantt chart. We're happy with that. We checked it. This is my costs. And I can scroll down and see everything here. And that is everything you need to produce for, well, 3 of the things you need to produce for part A. The last thing we need to produce, which will be another video, I'll come back to that, using the information that we've made here, is the PID, and we will need to export that. So there you go. I hope this helps.